Good evening and welcome to a special edition of To The Point marking the 47th anniversary of the October War victory. This evening we'll be delving into geopolitically what has been gained in 47 years from that victorious day. With us this evening is engineer Samy Farahat, who is the group's member of the Group 73 Historians Consultant. A pleasure to have you with us this evening.
Thank you, ma'am. The pleasure is
47 years.
Yes.
In your perspective, before we go into what we have reached today, what is the biggest lesson learned from this war? Lesson that after 47 years you have come to realize that this is the value, because as we progress and as we move through history, we sort of realize that there is a gain that we might not have seen in the past.
Yes.
In your opinion, what have we gained that we have not been capable of identifying in the past?
Actually, we have gained a lot. First of all, we have gained our trust and self-confidence. We have gained our land, and we have gained our self-respect and the world's respect. Let me tell you that maybe in the past the picture was not that clear or obvious, maybe to different parties in the region, but it was crystal clear to us. Our objective was to gain our land, our occupied motherland, and we did. From a political perspective, we saw the picture in a clear way, and we could use our cards in a smart way. So that's we gained our land and self-respect, and yeah.
Could we have achieved any peace deal with Israel, which later on was replicated by our neighbors, if we had not been victorious in that war?
No, not in 100 years, never. Because
why? Why would we have not sat to the negotiating table and negotiated some kind of a peace deal if we had not won that war?
It's the rules of the world. The strongest can claim his demands. We were defeated in 1967, and this mishap, which did not repeat a lot in the Egyptian history before, so we came out of this big defeat devastated in the whole sense of the word.
Yes.
We tried to communicate with the Israelis. We tried to speak to them, and unfortunately, like any other victorious party, they were arrogant. And Diane said it in a TV interview. Why would I sit with them? I have what I need. If they want to talk, let them talk. Let them come to me. So they did not want to return what they have gained. Why would they do so? So no, we wouldn't have been able to regain our motherland unless we achieve this victory, this big victory. Yes.
How did this victory contribute to curbing terrorism?
To?
Curbing terrorism. How is it related to terrorism? Because recently we've seen a large, quite an extensive wave of terrorism, not just in this part of the world, but globally. Had we not been victorious, would we have more terrorism than what we have today? How did you expect things to be if we had not won that war?
That's very hard to anticipate, because I believe that terrorism is one of the new weapons that some countries use in today's world. I believe that once we became victorious from this war, and once we liberated our land, we were targeted in a different way. Terrorism was one of these ways. So this is one thing. But again, if we remained as a defeated country, our land was still occupied today, I believe things would have been maybe worse. So I cannot anticipate. So from one side, it's a weapon that other countries use today. Terrorism is a made-up weapon. It's not. It doesn't come by nature. And from the other side, I believe that if things would have stayed as they were, a defeated country, a collapsed country, I believe that it would have been a rich soil for growing terrorism. So I cannot say which is...
A number of battles, Sinai was the land for a number, or the battlefield for a number of battles. How did it differ in '73 from what is happening over the past few years? We'll be discussing that issue right after this, so please stay with us. Welcome back. In 1973, the Egyptian army led a fierce battle and they came out victorious. Over the past few years, again, the Egyptian army led and is still leading a fierce battle in Sinai.
Yes.
And let's keep our fingers crossed, but so far we are victorious. How do you see the difference in the two battles? And here I'm talking about someone that is writing history. When 1973, the way we spelt it to the future generations, the message we deliver to the future generation is in a context. Can we say the same thing for what's happening today? For the battle we're leading today?
The same thing?
For the battle we're leading today?
Yes.
How are the two battles different? How is the role of the army different, in your opinion?
Okay. Well, I believe as much it was hard for them back then for many considerations, it was easy because you had one enemy, obvious, clear, and you studied your enemy and you put your plans to confront them. And when you land back, today you are fighting on many fronts, not only one front. So this is, from my perspective, is one of the differences, of the major differences between the two events. Also, today we are fighting terrorism. Terrorism is rooting from within the community. So your enemy is hiding amongst the people. So it is not easy to differentiate your enemy from your friend. So it's a mixed battle between obvious enemies and non-obvious enemies. Also, today's war is not a confrontation between one tank and another. It's mastered by schemes and non-confrontational wars. So the parties, the two parties, are not just fighting with arms and weapons, and no, it's plots and schemes being engineered, and you have to confront all that. So I think today's battle is harder, much harder than yesterday's.
Had we not won in '73, how would this region how would we have the shape and format of this region if we had not won that war? Would we be as we are in terms of the countries? Of course, the geographical barriers would have been, or lines would have been a bit different, but would we have seen the elimination of disappearance of some countries, for example, in this region? I mean, what would we have looked like?
I think one of the outcomes from the 1973 war is that we put the Israeli enemy back then in its normal normal position. It was a furious enemy back then, and let me say, winning your land and other countries like Syria, like Jordan, like Palestine, of course, this would have been a continuous process. So I think that one way or another, the 1973 war, the October War, stopped this expansion of Israel, one way or another. So it stayed in its occupied still borders, the borders of Palestine, and the expansion stopped. Another thing that Egypt has been always playing a master role in the region and in the world. So had we not been won this war, I think that the Egyptian role would have diminished. This would have affected the stability of the region, the whole region, and maybe the whole world. So I believe that the major achievement of this war is that Egypt came back to its feet despite all the problems that we have experienced till now, economically and in multiple fields, but still we came back to our feet. And this enabled us to play our role in the region. Again, the expansion of Israel in the region geographically had stopped somehow.
If we look at those that sat at the negotiating table with Egypt in 1979 in Camp David, even though they were involved in the fierce war that was between the two countries, involved personally, as in they were in the battlefield in 73 and 67. Yet the mindset of the Israeli administration at the time led to the peace process, which we have enjoyed since 79. Why is it that that mindset is not really out there with the current Israeli administration, even though most of those in the current administration did not personally have a role in the battlefield, in the fierce battles, let's put it that way, that were in the past? Why is it that the ex-military men that were out there in the battlefield could draw up a deal easier and seek peace, yet not the current administration?
Well, let's not forget that they came out of the October War shocked. They couldn't believe that they could be defeated. They had an illusion that things would stay as they are. They couldn't imagine that the Egyptians would have uprising to fight for their land. So it was a disastrous defeat for them. This had for sure affected their mindset. And when they sat to the table with us back then in 79, they were under this influence of mindset. So even they were hard in negotiations, as they are always across history.
But they negotiated.
But they did negotiate, and we took back our land, our occupied land.
What happened with this administration? Why is it that we don't sense that Netanyahu's administration is keen on resolving a critical issue? Because the Palestinian conflict really is not an issue that will disappear. It will always be there. It is being inherited from one generation to the, or descended from one generation to the other. And there is no stability in the region or on the occupied land, so long as this issue is resolved. Yet we don't see an administration that is really willing to make any effort to move forward with that issue. Why?
I think things have changed from back then to now. The atmosphere was more suitable back then after the victory of the Arabs in this war. I wish the Palestinians, maybe some people would differ with my opinion, but I wish they sat back then to the table and negotiated their land to win it back. But today, a lot of things had happened, and the atmosphere is different. So, like any human being, under a circumstance, under pressure, there would be a mindset, a certain mindset. They were defeated back then. Definitely today, maybe the lesson had been a little bit forgotten, and what's the pressure? What's the need? Why would they? Security? They have security
for the average layman.
Well, they are under the influence of the idea that their army can secure them, like it happened after '67. So this illusion is controlling the Israeli mind. If they are not under pressure, real pressure, I think, like any human being, they will not give up what they took.
So the safety of the average layman is not pressure enough?
No. To them? No. Because they think they can compensate that with other means.
The role of the people. The people played a very big role in '73.
Can I interrupt a little bit? Because in their media, they pretend that they have won the war. They are trying to change the mindset of the Israeli people after this long period of time. So history is being rewritten by them. They try to do so.
Since you just raised an important issue, which is the rewriting of history.
Yeah.
If you open up history books by leading European countries, for example, you would notice that they don't pinpoint, or they do not mention in those books, when it comes to the 1973 war, that Egypt was victorious.
Yeah.
They don't see it as our victory. Why is that?
Well, I think it's subject to many reasons. First of all, you are talking about the history books.
We're talking about history
not
books.
The media.
No. We're talking about history books that students study in schools.
Yeah.
I mean, in some of the international schools here in Egypt, if you open up some of the history books, they mention 1973 war, but they don't mention that Egypt was victorious.
Yeah.
If they don't say that it was an equal kind of thing, they would say that we even lost the war.
Let me tell you that even in our country, our youth here in Egypt, they don't know that Egypt won the 1973 war. And we face this in symposiums we hold in Group 73 historians.
Even if we celebrate each year the victory, they're still not aware of the fact that we regained our land?
It's just a day in the year, or a few days across the year, and they are under the influence of foreign media, even either through the internet, through TVs, through movies that they watch. So the media, which has a large effect on the awareness of the people, has a more powerful impact. So yes, unfortunately. Again, to your question, Europeans in their history books They don't mention that Egypt came victorious from the October War. This is rewriting of history. After such time, they try to influence the awareness by stabilizing an image that this war came as a tie. No one won. And sometimes Israel won because it was 100 kilometers from Cairo, as they say.
How do you see the role of the people in support of the army? If we compare the role the people played in 73 versus the role they are playing, safely to say, since 2011.
Yes.
Because we've had really a lot of historical developments over the past 9 years. So
Yeah.
how do people differ? And the reason I'm asking this is because even when you say the young generation is not aware that we won the war, it lived through a lot of history. I feel that the young generation is even more politicized than maybe their predecessors due to the political environment that they were forced even to live in.
But on which foundation? That's important. The awareness. The awareness of history and the awareness of facts, hard facts. It's not enough to be politicized, but you need to have a strong foundation to practice this political right. You asked about the support of people to the army.
People's role in the two wars.
Yeah. Let me tell you that after the defeat in 67, the army lost the support of the people, unfortunately, because they thought it was a shock to the Egyptian people. How would we lose this war? And we are the strongest in the region and so on. But soon enough, people started bit by bit to support the army. And this had, you know, after what? After the Egyptian army fought many battles and achieved victories. We sank the Eilat destroyer. We had a lot of battles. That was a few weeks from the defeat. And so the war never stopped since the defeat. Bit by bit, the people came to the support and the aid of their army, bit by bit. The climax was at the attrition war. And then again, on the 73 war, the climax of the support of the people to the army. There is no army without people, and there is no people without army. We cannot separate them. The army is part of the people, and it defends the people. And the people, well, the people is the source where we. So there is no people without army. There is no army without people.
What is the group 73 historians? What does this group do? Because the reason I'm asking this is because there has to be a multifaceted effort, coordination of efforts to ensure that the new generations are not misinformed about historical events.
Yeah.
That's why I'm asking, what does this group do?
Well, it started like any Egyptian youth. We did not know a lot about the war, and we had many questions. I mean the establishers of the group. We tried to seek and to know and to ask and to communicate. So we came to the connection with Pilot General Okasha, Muhammad Okasha, God bless his soul. And he answered a lot of our questions. So came the idea that, like we didn't know a lot about the war and about our history. Of course, there are many youth like us, they don't know. So came the idea to establish some sort of a group to try to communicate with the makers of the event, soldiers, officers, and all army personnel and let them give their story, tell their story to us. What happened? Who are you? What unit you were in? What battles did you go through? And everything. And we documented this. And we, of course, due to age and a lot of elements, someone could forget something or conflict some information. We would compare these stories all together and come up with a corrected version and publish this among the people.
You don't think the information in school books, textbooks, history and what have you books, you don't think this information is ample?
No, no, not one bit. We have a very, that's our problem. We have a very rich history and we speak a little about it. So our youth and our people don't know a lot and there is no focus. History is not one of the subjects that youth are interested in. You have to introduce this in a certain way to attract their attention. As I said, they are under the influence of a fierce media coming through the internet, TV, cinema, everything. So we have to, you have to fight this back by winning them and having them to know their history and the correct story about it. We tried this by producing a couple of 4 movies actually, documentaries and docudrama and drama, trying to put it in a more interesting way, telling them the story. And I think we had a lot of attention when these movies were broadcasted on TV. And this is the objective. Number one is to document our history because the details make a difference. The details. You don't want to know that Egypt went to a war with Israel and won. What is the details? The humanitarian details. The war details, everything. So this is what we are trying to achieve through our work.
And you don't think the documentaries about the 73 war are providing ample information about, because we, over the past 47 years really, we've had a lot of documentaries outlining that part of history, our victory. Maybe we're even highlighting more of what happened in 73 versus what happened in 67, for example. Yeah.
Yes.
We don't have a lot of maybe details because it was really a very painful experience.
And attrition, the forgotten war. Attrition, the war of attrition. This is the forgotten war. It was great, and it was the preparation, the real preparation for the 73 war victory. So about documentaries, they are not enough. And we found through experience that when we tried to produce documentaries, we didn't get a lot of attention. So that's why we mixed documentary with drama, and then we went to drama, pure drama. Like the movie The Passage, which was produced recently. It received a lot of attention from the people. So drama is an acceptable way to introduce facts, historical facts, to audience. Documentaries, no one in today's youth is very much interested in documentaries, unfortunately.
What is the best method to reach out to the young generation, in your point of view?
That's a
because
dilemma.
This is not a textbook generation, really.
Yeah.
It's a generation that wants the information to be quick, brief, dynamic, fast.
Yes.
The pace of life really is quite different from what it was in the past.
Yes.
And this generation will not sit and watch a movie for an hour, for example. They want quick.
Unless it's attractive, unless it has a lot of movie cinema work to attract the audience. That's the dilemma, actually, because as you said, today's youth is not a reading youth. They are not interested in documentaries and even long movies. It's a dilemma. I don't know actually. We try and we change our approach from time to time, but I believe that cinema, good cinema, in an attractive way, with a lot of cinema art, would be attractive to this youth. Yes.
The reason why I'm asking is because I'm quite surprised, because we've had a lot of movies and dramas, for example, that relate parts of history and the evolution of relations between Egypt and Israel over the past years. And the reason I'm asking is because you're giving the impression that, which I find quite surprising, that our youth are not aware of this victory. The reason I'm asking this is because, personally speaking, here on a personal front, I was confronted by my own children who questioned, why is it that in this history book we're told that we are not victorious in 73, yet in our other history book, printed here by the Egyptian Ministry of Education, we are victorious.
Yes.
So, are we not victorious?
Yeah.
So, I would understand if you say it causes some kind of a confusion, and maybe in a way it even confuses your child to ask them to, well, in this exam you will have to write this, and in the other exam you will have to write that. But for the majority of the youth, because here I'm talking about people, children that go to national schools, why would they be mixed up with history?
Why?
Why would they be mixed up in history?
As I said, it's a war, and media is a very important tool in this war. I don't think that the conflict came only from comparing the school book, history book, with another history book they bought from another source. I think that what they face on the internet, what they see on cinema movies, this is quite normal for them. If I receive
but you
conflicting.
See, I understand, but
Yeah.
you see also movies here in Egypt. I mean, I don't want to really go into names here
Yeah,
because
yeah.
we're not publicizing for
Of course.
names of movies, but we've had quite a large number of leading movies that were not only aired here in Egypt, but even went as far as the Cannes Film Festival, for example, that address parts of history like that. You don't think this made our young generation aware of where we stand with this war?
No, not enough. It's a big war. And if you produce one movie, they produce thousands of movies. And they are smart in introducing their ideas, because the movie can be talking about another subject, and in the middle you find a piece of information after another piece of information that comes into the awareness of the audience, which is our youth, and it makes it's not deliberate. They think that it's not deliberate, but it is. So with time, they form a different awareness than what they see. Do they trust? Let me not say it in this way. Is it enough what we do to confront all this war, all this fierce war in the media level? It's not enough. It's not enough. I am sure about it.
What more do you want to be done?
More movies, more serials, TV serials, talking about our history. In our schools, it's not only enough to present or introduce the history information in a book. Activities in schools. I mean, at houses. I mean, we need even to grow the awareness of the parents to talk to their children and to teach them. So they should find this at home, which is missing. And they should find this information or awareness at school. It's not enough. And maybe, I don't know, in the media, in the cinema, in all means, we should use our all force to confront this. That's what I believe. Because really, what we face in the symposiums, and we talk to when we talk to people, youth, they know nothing, or they know mixed information.
Can I just question, where do those youth come from that attend those symposiums and their age range?
We try to hold these symposiums at schools, at universities, at the clubs, anywhere we can. So actually we are doing our best, but again it's not enough. It's a work of an administration, a whole country, with all its with its media, with its learning institutions, with everything.
Engineer Mohammed, Samy Mohammed Farahat, thank you very much for joining us. Unfortunately, our time is up. We wish you the very best of luck in your future endeavors.
Thank you very much.
I'd like to thank you, the viewers. Wish you a very pleasant evening and good night.